And as you look at this, folks, religion seems to have a special place in the lives of both the defendant, Brian Mitchell, and the victim, Elizabeth Smart. Now, Smart is a devout Mormon, and she was on a mission trip for the church in Paris and had to leave to testify at this trial. Now, Anthea Butler is a professor of religious studies at the University of Pennsylvania, and she joins us right now to talk about Smart's faith and how it may have helped her survive what she called 9 months in hell. Great to have you with us, Ms. Butler. Can you first start by talking to us about the Church of Latter-day Saints and what the church believes in, what Elizabeth Smart and her family's beliefs might be?
Well, part of what LDS beliefs are very similar to Christian beliefs, except there are a couple of things that are very different that I think have a bearing on the case. One thing is that they believe in the issue of revelation. That is, revelation can be given to anyone. God can speak to you. God can talk to you. And this became a very crucial point in the trial of Mitchell during this time period because he claimed to have revelation. Well, if you're LDS, anyone can have revelation. That's the first thing. The second thing is the role of the prophet within the church. The president of the church currently right now is heralded as a prophet on earth, so that in fundamentalist LDS, what they believe is that the prophet will return to battle the Antichrist. And part of those beliefs get really convoluted when you listen to parts of the trial. And then the third piece is the very important role of marriage within the church. Marriage is just not for earth, it's for time and eternity. You're married to someone forever. So this whole issue about taking plural wives harkens back to early day Mormonism with the founder Joseph Smith, but that was taken away in the latter part of the 19th century by the main church, and now fundamentalist LDS believe in those beliefs.
Okay. Can you talk to us about the mission that she's on right now in Paris? What are these missions for? Or in other words, what's their purpose?
Well, part of the purpose of a mission is to gain more converts, obviously, to the church. So young men go on these missions. Usually they do them from between 19 and 25. For young women, they're on the mission field for a year and a half, essentially. And they do those at a little bit later age, 21 to 25. And you're with a partner every day. You have limited contact with your family. You're doing door-to-door missions or you're doing church work. And that's a time to give yourself to the faith, in other words. So for someone who's LDS, that's a very important part. And I think for Elizabeth Smart, this is part of her healing process.
Okay, talk to us about her healing process because, Ms. Butler, one of the amazing things about this trial is seeing Elizabeth Smart testify, seeing her in that courtroom. Her ability to get through this experience and be there for this trial is just unbelievable to so many of us. How does her faith help her get beyond this trauma in addition to the mission?
Well, I think one of the things that's really important to remember about LDS is that I have to say I've never seen a bad-mannered Mormon, okay? I mean, I think that part of what their faith does, it really centers them. And it gives them a space in which to deal with things. In other words, one of the things I think a lot of LDS talked about was that this was not God's will, but God willed it and allowed it to happen to her, but that in the sense that she could draw on her faith right now and the strength of her family, I'm sure friends in her ward. I think that she has a good circle of people around her, especially being out on the mission field, that'll help her get through all of these bad memories. It's just amazing, really, how she's comported herself.
It really is. And you know, another thing that's amazing in this trial is how she was able, even though she was with him for 9 months, she was able to resist being manipulated. And that was sort of unlike Wanda Barzee, his wife. But what's your sense of that and why she was and how she was able to avoid that manipulation and really fight back at such a young age?
Yeah, I think one of the things was, and this is a testament to Elizabeth Smart's parents, that her, the tenets of her faith really helped her because where Wanda Barzee really believed in these revelations that her husband, Brian Mitchell, was giving to her, Elizabeth Smart knew that he was not a prophet, okay? She knew that all of the things that he was doing, offering her alcohol, showing her pornography, having sex with her, these are things that a faithful Mormon would not participate in at all. And so she could tell the difference. So I think it was her inner strength, her knowing the principles of her faith, the true principles of her faith, that got her through this.
Wow, even at such a young age. I want to bring back in Jean Casares. You know, Jean, at one point in this trial, Elizabeth Smart made that dramatic excerpt from the courtroom while the psychiatry witness was testifying in the case. That was one of the amazing moments of this case and one of the only times that she just had enough. Did you get any sense of what she might have been going through at that point? Was it just mere frustration at hearing this description of Brian David Mitchell?
There's a lot of emotions inside of her. I see it. And how could there not be so many emotions inside of her? You know, one thing the prosecution has brought out in the aspect of religion is the fact that Brian David Mitchell focused and preyed upon a Mormon girl, that he would not have selected a Jewish girl or a Catholic girl. He preyed upon a Mormon girl because of the basis of beliefs that were the same between the two of them, the same language they spoke, and he could then manipulate her and exert power over her with his fundamentalist or Mormon fringe beliefs of plurality, having Elizabeth be one of what he wanted of 7 wives.
Okay, and then the flip side of that being she had such conviction in her beliefs that she was able to resist some of that. And I want to bring back in Anthea Butler. Anthea, you know, Gene just mentioned that a lot of people on the jury, a lot of the jurors in this case, are Mormons. How do you think that affects the outcome of this case? I'm not asking you necessarily for your prediction, but I'm just wondering, will the jurors look at this and say, well, we can tell that he's not a prophet because he did some of the things that we've heard he did, but at the same time, you mentioned before that some Mormons believe that God speaks to them, and perhaps he spoke to this man.
Yeah, I think in this particular case, you could make a fundamental difference if you are in the LDS faith between what Brian David Mitchell is saying and what your stake president might say, or the prophet of the church right now. These aberrant beliefs that he had were just incredibly off the mark. Even if you're a fundamentalist Mormon, they're not even the same thing. These were things that he made up. He made up his own book. And I wanted to speak to briefly that piece about her getting upset in the trial. The reason why she got upset was one of the days that she really walked out was the day that they talked about he wanted to have a baby with her. And that's really important in LDS theology and belief, because when you have a baby, you bring a spirit being into the world. And that's an important piece of Mormon belief. And to talk about that on the stand as though she would want to have a baby with this man really probably was very hurtful to her.
Yeah, I can imagine how difficult it must have been for her. I just have one more question for you. You know, we look at cases like this, and we look at cases like J.C. Dugard, and we see so much of religion being tied up with sexuality and manipulation. Is there some sort of reason for that in these kinds of cases? I think Gene touched on it a little bit before, but I'm just wondering your thoughts on this, about how these ideas get mixed up and confused.
Well, I think anytime you have a religion that has strict beliefs about sexuality, be that Catholicism, Protestantism, Mormonism, anything, you have a place in which the aberrant, when you want to do something you can't do, you have to rely on something in the faith to be able to take that and turn it into what you want. So in other words, using God to get sex out of someone, this was the same thing in the Jason Dugard case. I mean, there have been many cases like this where God is used as a way to get into someone. Or I am a special person, I am divine, I can have this sex with you because X, I can do these abusive things to you. So I think it's important, especially for the jurors, to realize that this is not, you know, typical faith or belief, but it is a way that faith and belief is used to control and to manipulate and to degrade other people.
All right, Anthea Butler, professor of religious studies at University of Penn. Thank you so much for joining us. Gene Casares, thanks for joining us as well. Gene is right there outside of the courtroom. When we have a verdict, we'll go back to Gene, so maybe we'll be seeing Gene in just a little bit. All right, thanks to both of you.
Thank you.